It was supposed to be a special day, a celebration of me, my birthday. If you want more interesting stories like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. Let us know where you're watching from. My family and I had always had a tradition of gathering at our home to celebrate milestones, but this year felt different. I was turning 30, and I had worked hard to build a life for myself. My house was something I had worked for, saved for, and made my own, a symbol of my independence and success. I had spent years making it the place I had always dreamed of. But when the birthday dinner was over and the candles had been blown out, the conversation took an unexpected turn. "We need to talk." My father's voice was more serious than usual. He looked at my sister, Samantha, who was sitting across the table, her face full of expectation. I had no idea what was about to happen. I watched as my family shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My mother avoided making eye contact, and my brother, who was always quiet at family gatherings, looked at his plate. "What's going on?" I asked, a sudden tension rising in my chest. Then, my father cleared his throat. "Well, we've decided something important. Your mother and I have been thinking about it for a while, and we believe it's the right time." I frowned, still not understanding what was happening. "What are you talking about, Dad?" "That house of yours," he said slowly, with a bit of hesitation. "We've decided that Samantha should have it. She'll take over your house and make it her own. We believe she's in a better position to manage it and take care of it now that her career is settling down." The room went quiet, and I felt my heart drop to the pit of my stomach. My house? The place I had worked so hard for, the place I had poured my blood, sweat, and tears into, it was going to my sister? I stared at my family, trying to process what they were saying. "Wait, what? You're giving my house to her? On my birthday?" I could feel the sting of betrayal starting to build in my chest. My sister, sitting across from me, looked uncomfortable but didn't say a word. She wasn't exactly thrilled about the situation either. It was as if she, too, knew how unfair this all was, but she had no choice but to accept it. "But I worked for this," I managed to say, my voice trembling with the weight of emotion. "I've been independent. I've made sacrifices for this house. I've made it mine. How could you just give it away like that?" My mother finally spoke up, her voice softer but firm. "It's not about the house, sweetheart. It's about family. You've always been so independent, and we know you'll be fine without it. We think Samantha could really use the stability. She needs a place to settle down." I stared at my family, my mind racing. Was this how they saw me? Like I didn't need anything from them? That I could just be left to fend for myself? I sat there for what felt like an eternity, trying to absorb what had just happened. The sense of betrayal hit me hard. I had thought my family understood me, understood what I had sacrificed to get where I was. But this was a reminder that no matter what I achieved, no matter how hard I worked, it wasn't going to be enough. I didn't respond. I couldn't respond. Not without saying something I would regret. I felt my hands ball into fists, and the weight of the moment crashed down on me. My house, my hard-earned success, gone. But then, as the reality of the situation sank in, something shifted inside me. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I had always prided myself on making my own way, and now I was faced with an unexpected opportunity. I wasn't going to let them take everything from me. I stood up abruptly, the anger and frustration bubbling to the surface. I wasn't going to let this happen. I wasn't going to just sit there and take it. "So that's it then?" I said, my voice steady but filled with a calm determination. "You're just giving her my house because you think I'll be fine without it? Well, guess what? I'm not fine. I've worked my entire life to build something, and you just handed it over to her without even thinking twice." The table fell silent. My parents didn't know what to say, and Samantha avoided making eye contact. I could tell she didn't want to be the one to take it, but she wasn't going to back down either. She had never really had to fight for anything, and now it seemed she was handed the one thing I cared about most. I turned to face my father, my chest tightening. I don't need this house, sure, but you don't get to take it from me without any say. You have no right to make that decision for me." My father looked uncomfortable, his hands clasped together on the table. "It's not about rights, it's about what's best for the family. We thought we were helping you, giving you the space to do what you do best, but we believe this is best for everyone." His words didn't reach me anymore. They weren't seeing me, the real me, the daughter who had put in the work, the one who had sacrificed. This wasn't about what was best for the family. It was about making decisions without involving me, and it made my blood boil. I took a deep breath. "If you think you're helping me, you're wrong. You've done the exact opposite. But you know what? I'm done talking about this." I grabbed my coat, not even bothering to look at them anymore. They had made their choice. They had given everything I worked for to my sister, and now I had to take matters into my own hands. I left. The cold air hit me as I stepped outside. I walked aimlessly for a while, the weight of everything pushing down on me. It was my birthday, the day that was supposed to be about celebrating me, my accomplishments, the things I had done for myself. And instead, it turned into a day of betrayal and frustration. But as I walked down the sidewalk, something inside me started to change. I wasn't going to let this define me. If they thought taking my house would break me, they had another thing coming. I knew that the family business had always been a cornerstone of our family's success, but it had always been in the background, overshadowed by the expectations and demands of everyone else. But now it was my turn. I wasn't going to let them dictate my future any longer. As I walked through the city streets, the cold wind biting at my skin, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The anger and frustration were still there, simmering just beneath the surface. But I had to focus. I needed to do something big, something that would show my family that I wasn't just going to let them take everything from me without a fight. I had always felt like I was standing in the shadow of their expectations, trying to please everyone but never feeling like I was truly seen for who I was or what I had accomplished. My work, my drive, my sacrifice. All of it had led me to this moment, and I wasn't about to let it go to waste. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I was done being sidelined. The family business had always been something my father and grandfather had built. It was profitable, well-established, and passed down to each generation. But for all the prestige it held, it had been run by men, and those men had never once considered me capable of taking the reins. I had worked behind the scenes, quietly supporting the business, but I had never been given the credit or the responsibility I deserved. But now, that was going to change. I wasn't going to wait for anyone to hand me what I wanted anymore. I was going to take it. I made a decision right there on the street. The family business was mine. I had the knowledge, I had the experience, I had the work ethic, and more than anything, I had the drive to make it thrive in a way no one expected. No one would see me as the outsider anymore. I drove home that night, my mind racing with ideas. This was my chance. I could step up, take over, and prove once and for all that I had the vision and the skill to run the business. My family had handed over my house, but I wasn't going to let them take the business from me too. The next day, I called a meeting with the key players in the family business. I needed to make my intentions clear, and I needed to do it fast. As I walked into the boardroom the following morning, I was greeted with polite smiles and curious glances. My father, who was usually the first to speak, sat at the head of the table, a slightly nervous look in his eyes. He knew what was coming. "Thank you all for joining me," I began, my voice calm but full of determination. "I've been a part of this company for years, working behind the scenes, supporting your decisions and helping the business grow, but it's time for a change. I'm ready to take the lead." The room fell silent. "What do you mean?" my father asked, clearly surprised. "You've always had your own life, your own goals. You've never wanted this responsibility." I looked him directly in the eye, standing tall, unwavering. "You were wrong. I've always wanted this. I've built my career around it, and I've learned enough to know that I am the right person to take this company forward." The tension in the room was palpable. My brother and cousins exchanged uneasy glances. They weren't used to me taking charge. They were used to seeing me in the background, doing the work but never stepping up. But I wasn't the person they remembered. "You may have given my house away," I continued, "but I'm taking the business. I've got a vision, and it's time for all of us to step into the future, not stay stuck in the past." The shock on their faces was priceless. No one knew how to respond. They had expected me to back down, to quietly accept my new reality. But I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to let them define who I was or what I could do. "What's your plan?" my father asked, his voice barely a whisper. I took a deep breath and laid out the vision I had spent the last few years quietly working on. New marketing strategies, expansion into new markets, and a rebranding that would make the company competitive with the best in the industry. As I spoke, I could see the skepticism in their eyes slowly start to shift to something else. Interest, maybe even respect. They had always underestimated me, but now they had to listen. By the end of the meeting, I had secured a vital role in the company. Not just a token position, but a leadership role, one that would allow me to implement my vision and take the business to new heights. I wasn't going to be an afterthought anymore. I wasn't just going to let my family's expectations dictate who I was. I was taking over, and nothing was going to stop me. In the weeks that followed, the family business underwent a dramatic transformation. I threw myself into the work, determined to prove not only to my family but to myself that I had what it took to lead. The strategies I had outlined in that initial meeting began to take shape, and with each success, my confidence grew. I didn't just want to prove them wrong, I wanted to show them that this was my moment, that I could be the one to drive the company forward. At first, there was resistance. My father, though initially supportive, struggled to let go of the reins. He had always been the one in charge, and it wasn't easy for him to step aside. But the more I showed him my plans, the more I demonstrated that I wasn't just taking charge for the sake of it. I was doing it for the future of the business, for the future of the family. Slowly, he began to trust me. My siblings, too, had their doubts. My sister Samantha especially. She still resented that she had gotten my house and now saw me taking the reins of the family business as a way of taking control of everything she had been given. At first, she didn't understand why I was making these decisions. She didn't see the work I was putting in, the late nights, the phone calls, the meetings. But eventually, as the company began to thrive under my leadership, she started to see the bigger picture. One evening, after a long week of meetings and deadlines, I was sitting in my office catching up on emails when Samantha knocked on the door. "Can we talk?" she asked, a hesitant smile on her face. I motioned for her to come in, wondering what this conversation was going to be about. "I've been thinking," she started, sitting down across from me, "about the house and the business, about everything." I raised an eyebrow, unsure of where she was going with this. "I just want to say, I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I know I wasn't very supportive in the beginning. I didn't understand why you were pushing so hard for the business. I thought I was being overlooked, and I didn't realize you were fighting for something much bigger than just yourself." I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. "I get it, Sam. I know it must have been tough, especially after everything with the house. But that house was never about ownership. It was about who I had become. It was about proving to myself that I could build something from nothing. And this business? Well, it's about more than just me. It's about all of us. About family." She nodded, her expression softening. "I see that now, and I'm proud of you. I know you didn't ask for this, and I know I didn't make it easy on you. But I'm glad we're in this together." I smiled, feeling a weight lifting off my shoulders. This was the beginning of something new, a real partnership, not one built on past resentments, but on mutual respect and understanding. For the first time in a long time, it felt like my family and I were on the same page. The business continued to grow, my vision slowly becoming a reality. New clients, new partnerships, new opportunities came flooding in, and the team I had built around me was thriving. We were creating something that wasn't just about money, it was about legacy, about building something that would last. And every day I felt that familiar drive pushing me forward, a drive that had been ignited the moment my family made the choice to give my house to Samantha. But the real victory was this. I had taken control of my own future. I had taken over not just the business, but my own destiny. My family didn't just give me the business. I earned it. I proved that no matter what was handed to me or taken away, I was capable of achieving great things. And from that moment on, I knew that nothing would ever hold me back again. As the months passed, the transformation of the business became undeniable. The changes I had implemented began to show tangible results. We secured larger contracts, expanded into new markets, and began gaining recognition in the industry. But the most gratifying part wasn't the accolades or the growth, it was the change within my family. We were no longer just fighting against each other, we were learning to work together toward a shared vision. My father, who had initially been hesitant, began to see the value in the direction I was taking. He started attending meetings with me, offering advice when needed, but stepping back when it was clear that I had a vision that was working. The respect he had for me grew with each decision I made, and that meant more to me than anything. It was no longer about me trying to prove myself, it was about showing him that I could lead with purpose and with the wisdom I had gained through years of hard work. Samantha, too, had begun to settle into her role in the family. At first, there had been some friction between us, but I could see her coming around. The jealousy she had initially felt about the house had slowly faded, replaced by a sense of pride in the success of the business we now shared. We were no longer in competition with each other. We were partners, working together for the good of the family. The company's success had ripples that reached beyond the office. It affected our relationships at home, how we communicated, and how we supported one another. The division that had existed between me and my family, especially with my parents, had started to heal. We were becoming a stronger unit, a team that knew how to face challenges head-on and emerge victorious. One evening, as I sat at my desk, reflecting on everything we had accomplished, I realized something profound. The business was thriving, yes, but so were my relationships. I had finally taken control of the life I had always wanted, not through rebellion, but through hard work, determination, and belief in myself. It wasn't the house that defined me, it was my ability to build something from the ground up, to lead with integrity and vision. And as I looked out the window of my office, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had not only earned the respect of my family, but I had learned to respect myself. The house they had given to Samantha was just a piece of property. It was my own actions, my leadership, and my commitment to the family business that truly defined my place in the world. Now, as we all sat together at family dinners, the conversation had shifted from competition and resentment to collaboration and growth. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And in that moment, I realized that the journey had been worth every setback, every challenge, and every sacrifice. The path to success wasn't just about what you took, it was about what you were willing to build together. I smiled to myself, knowing that I had created something lasting. I wasn't just the leader of the business, I was the leader of a united family. And that was the greatest accomplishment of all.